Israel coming at you. Um, we got a good show for you today. And I should have just set my camera up on my computer, but I just felt like doing it on the phone this morning. I guess I didn't feel like setting my camera up on my computer. But anyway, y'all, we're continuing the series, The Journey Inwards. And what we're talking about today is self-avoiding or self-avoidance or avoiding the self, avoiding looking at yourself. To put it in simple, easy to understand terms, avoiding looking at yourself. um, and that's what this series is about is excuse me, looking within, looking at your behaviors, working your own salvation out with fear and trembling, investing the majority of your time, energy, and effort into a person that you can bring the most change to, and that's going to be yourself. And not wasting time, energy, effort, attention on external things that at the end of the day are not really, they're fruitless, on fruitless endeavors. And the reason this is a timely message because there are a lot of distractions out there. There's a lot of distractions out there, whether it's social media, whether it's the internet, whether it's people, places, things, whether it's even your own mindset, the way you think right now. Um, it's a distraction, and we have to keep the main thing the main thing. And what's the main thing? The word. And when we read through the word, particularly those books like the book of Sirach and the book of Ecclesiasticus, otherwise known as the book of Ecclesiasticus, but Sirach, the book of Proverbs, the New Testament, all this stuff is really a reflection on yourself and how you deal with things and your behavior and what's in your heart. Because at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to is getting your heart, your mind, spirit, whatever you want to call it, getting that right and in alignment with the word. So, and what we're going to be talking about here is uh, the mechanisms that operate that cause us, that block us from taking the journey inwards. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Okay. Um, so let's do this. We're gonna scan over self-avoidance. Um, refers to a pattern of behavior where individuals avoid situations, people, or activities that could lead to negative emotions or perceived threats to their self-esteem. Okay, and to when we say self-esteem, and if you look in my, I think it's spiritual self-development playlist, I go in on self-esteem and kind of granularly break down, and that's just your perception of who you think you are. Okay, and people avoid things that will counter that instead of sitting in those uncomfortable places and finding out who they really are, not who they perceive themselves to be. So it says it's a common human behavior that can manifest in various ways, often stemming from fear, insecurity, or past negative experience, so like trauma. Okay, or like like I like to say, like in a spiritual context, um, arrested in their development in certain areas. That's how we could be, okay? And everybody has these issues to a certain degree. Um, the stronger they are, the more obvious they are, okay? And then we're gonna go into the manifestations of that, what this looks like, the different mechanisms that prevent us from um, analyzing ourselves and stuff like that. We're gonna get into that momentarily. Uh, but let me, and we're gonna talk about the self-esteem a little bit more. So, but like I said, the key factor to take away from what I just read was the fact that um, self-esteem is kind of your perception of who you are, but it might be off. And a lot of times when something's off, when something shows that to be different, your perception of who you are, when something shows it to be different, a lot of people resort to these tactics, which are self avoidance type tactics. And we're going to get into it all. And what we need to understand is that we need to First Peter chapter 5 verse 8 when we're dealing with these situations, and that's be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour. Okay? So he's out there looking, seeing who you take out. So you need to be vigilant about what's going on in you and around you. Okay? Because again, what I wrote here, in religion, there is a tendency to focus people externally on things, whether it's works or whether it's Satan or whatever. You hear a lot of them. Yeah, Satan worked through other people. That's how Satan gets you. He go to other people. He works with people, and they bring Satan to you or whatever, which is true. But Satan works in you too, and that's where there's a huge void at, where people are focused on Satan operating outside of them, but they're not focusing on where Satan's operating inside. And that's where you're going to see as when we read through here, you're going to see a lot of these self-avoidance tactics that people take to avoid looking within, and they're focused without, and Satan running amok inside them. So here it is. I wrote the sophisticated mechanisms people use to hide from themselves. Humans employ a variety of sophisticated mechanisms to shield themselves from confronting their true selves and the underlying truths about their lives. Okay, so it's sophisticated mechanisms that people use just to avoid truly dealing with themselves. And like I've been saying through this whole Journey Inward series, like this is where the rubber meets the road. Like this is the core. This is like what this walk is about. Okay? Everything, all the tools that the Most High gives us, He gives us His word. He gives us prayer. He gives us fasting. He gives us His Holy Spirit. He gives us brothers and sisters and counsel around us. He gives us deliverance. Like all these tools are to fight this battle right here, facing yourself. But again, there's a bunch of a multitude of tactics that get employed, whether it's through Satan's deception or for the spirit of fear, whatever it is that cause us to not follow through. You know what I'm saying? To not take advantage of, to not end up not doing the real work and fighting the real fight. Okay? So, um, the question you need to ask is, what do you tell yourself and others to avoid facing yourself? Okay? I mean, look, the reason why I see this is because look, I do it. I'm not sitting here saying try to act like I done arrived and all that. This is a war that I fight. A lot of this stuff I have overcome, and I am willing. You know what I'm saying, to face it. And what inevitably happens when you face yourself, when you truly look within and deal with the darkness operating within you, the wickedness that might be operating in you, spirits that might be operating in you. Like when you go within and deal with that, it brings a true humility, and not a humility in word, but just a humility that is a light to other people, just because they see the way you conduct yourself, how you operate. Okay. Um, So I wrote, these mechanisms, often rooted in defense strategy, serve as a protective barrier, allowing individuals to maintain a sense of control and avoid facing discomfort or pain. So they're avoidance mechanism. But like I said, no pain, no gain. Okay? And y'all know the scriptures. We're gonna read Sirach chapter 2, the beginning of it in here, where it tells you to endure. Let's go ahead and hit it right now. Hold on. Let's read my verse. Ecclesiastes chapter 2. My son, if thou come to serve the Lord, prepare thy soul for temptation. Set thy heart aright and constantly endure, and make not haste in time of trouble. And you watch a lot of people, when it gets uncomfortable and the situation's getting uncomfortable, they get antsy, they get jumpy, and they boom. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the mindset, the mind cycle going on within them. Cleave unto him and depart not away, that thou mayest be increased at the last end. Whatsoever is brought upon thee, take cheerfully, and be patient when thou art changed to a low estate. For gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity. Okay? So you have to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. And I'm telling you, like I say this all the time because it's such a big deal, and so many people have been conditioned to they have conditioned responses to uncomfortable situations. And again, we're going to read through these ways that people justify avoiding being tried in the fire. Like that's what we're going to do here. Okay, check this out. Okay. So, 2 Corinthians chapter 13 verse 5. Examine yourselves whether ye be in the faith. Prove your own selves. Know ye not your own selves how that Jesus Christ is in you, except ye be reprobates. We're gonna read it in the easy English Bible, so there ain't no wiggle room, and it's granular, and we done broke it all the way down, so there's no communication issues here on what's coming out. It says, think carefully about how you are living. Are you really believing the message about Christ, I hope you know that Jesus Christ is in you. You ought to know that unless you have completely failed. I hope that ye will know that we ourselves have not failed. You do belong to Christ as you do. Okay? It looked like the last half got cut off. But look, you got if you know Christ is in you, and I'm gonna tell you what happens. A lot of people are so accustomed in certain areas of their life to giving over to a spirit of fear or a spirit of avoidance or something like that, that when that particular area where they're arrested in their development comes up, they can't hear the voice of Christ because they've hearkened to that voice of fear so much. And you can sense it. If you've done this type of work and really, got in on this type of stuff, like really looked at what's going on with inside you and seeing if it's in alignment with the word, and you've gone through the discomfort and the humiliation and just the discomfort of becoming aware that you're not who you think you are and bringing yourself into alignment. So now you are who you know you are now. So you've done that work, you have discernment, and you can see it on other people. And it helps you deal with them. It gives you empathy when you're dealing with people. Okay. So here are some of the common mechanisms people use to hide from themselves. So this kind of some of the nucleus of what we're talking about. Denial. This involves outright rejection of reality, refusing to acknowledge uncomfortable truths or feelings. For example, someone might deny their addiction or the severity of their emotional distress. Okay? Projection. Now, y'all have heard these before, some of my other shows. This is the process of attributing one's own unacceptable thoughts, feelings, impulses to others. By projecting these qualities onto others, individuals can avoid acknowledging them within themselves. Okay? Rationalization. This involves creating logical explanations for irrational or unacceptable behavior. Rationalization allows people to justify their actions without confronting the underlying motivations or consequences. Okay? These, I'm telling you, I know these is like I know this is like hand grenade type stuff where hey, everybody can see at least some of these in them. Okay, repression. Repression involves pushing uncomfortable thoughts or memories into the unconscious mind, and repression is like a type of trauma where stuff has happened back in the day, like when you were young, and you just repress it, you stuff it down. Effectively burying them from awareness. This can lead to a distorted sense of self and difficulty forming genuine connections with others. Okay? Um, Intellectualism. Oh no, intellectualization. Okay? There we go. This involves focusing on the intellectual aspects of a situation, avoiding emotional engagement. By overanalyzing, overthinking, individuals can distance themselves from their own feelings and experiences. Fantasy. This involves escaping into a world of imagination where desires and fantasies can be fulfilled without consequence. By immersing themselves in fantasy, people can avoid dealing with their challenges and limitations of reality. So this, first thing that comes to mind on this one, video games. I'm sure there's others, but video games is the one that comes to mind when I see that. Uh, Subulation. This involves channeling unacceptable impulses or desires into socially acceptable activities. For example, someone with aggressive tendencies might channel their energy into competitive sports or creative pursuits. So you get mad and you go find something, you know what I'm saying? They say to let the energy out on or whatever. Um, another one, subulation should be like somebody piss you off, like, okay. And they leave, and you start punching the wall. You know. Avoidance. This involves actively avoiding situations or people that trigger uncomfortable emotions or self doubt. By avoiding these triggers, individuals can maintain a false sense of security and avoid confronting their true selves. Okay? So, avoidance. And there's an avoidance where you're avoiding people in a righteous way, but then there's an unrighteous avoidance. Okay? Uh, but these are the things that operate inside us that we need to become aware of. And initially, it's very difficult, and initially, it seems impossible to do. Initially, okay? But with diligence and just consistency, you begin to literally like pulling a thread or whatever and just keep pulling and unravel the whole thing, okay? But you got to be diligent. And, there's things that block, you got to be aware of all the things that are going to block you and cause you to, you know, not take this journey inward, talk you out of the journey inward. Matthew chapter 23, verse 27 says, "Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye are like unto whited sepulchres, which indeed appear beautiful outwardly." So this is like the mechanism, like how churches, a lot of churches and religious establishments operate. They put an emphasis on the external stuff. Oh, you pray, you got the Bible memorized, and you're worshiping, and everybody see you jumping around. But people know, yeah, that's that dude there, wicked. You know what I'm saying? That broad there, wicked. You know what I'm saying? And it says you're like a whited sepulcher. So basically, you're like a cup where the outside of the cup is real clean, but the inside of the cup, and that's the part that matters because that's where you're gonna be drinking the liquid from. The inside of the cup is dirty. It's dirty as heck. And it's more important for the inside of the cup to be clean than the outside. Because if the inside of the cup is clean, you could drink from it. You can still drink from it. You know what I'm saying? If the inside's clean, the outside's dirty. You know. Um. So, and it's important to note that these mechanisms are often unconscious and can become deeply ingrained and embedded in our behaviors to where you are convinced that there's no issues with you. Okay, you are absolutely convinced there is no issue with me. It's them. You know what I'm saying? And I have ran into so many people um, that wrestle with this thing where they are absolutely convinced it's not them, but it's external. It's something external of them, but it is not them, and they are like absolutely convinced of it. But you could be absolutely convinced and be wrong. You know what I'm saying? It says, while they may provide temporary relief from discomfort, they ultimately hinder personal growth and prevent individuals from living authentically. Okay? Understanding these mechanisms can be a valuable tool for self awareness and personal development. By recognizing and challenging these defense strategies, individuals can begin to uncover their true selves and live more fulfilling lives and have more fulfilling relationships, because these types of behavior, they're going to undermine relationships and everything. Okay. And it's, bro, when you begin seeing this stuff and you begin becoming aware of these things operating in you, like the way I'll tell you, like for me, the way it feels is like, God, it's like you feel like you running the race and then they tell you, hey, go start over. It's like, that's the way it can feel, but that's a feeling. But the reality is, man, you're moving forward even further. And the results and and the fruit that it brings forth is like you everywhere. It affects everything in a good way when you go through these things and bring these things into the light and into the truth of the word. Again, to do this stuff, to work through these things, you're gonna need prayer. You're gonna need fasting. You're gonna need supplication. You're gonna need you're gonna need the Holy Spirit. You're gonna need deliverance. You're gonna need brothers and sisters. Like you literally gonna need all this stuff to deal with this stuff. And most of all, you're gonna need a desire to be righteous. Not in word, but in deed. You know what I'm saying? All right. Live more fulfilling. Uh so we read, examine yourselves whether ye be in the faith. Okay. Um you you nobody is, immune from Satan's deception and temptations. Nobody. Nobody, and let me tell you this, nobody just be like, oh yeah, it ain't not, yeah, I got Satan, I got him under control. Nah, he come at you. You got to be full of this word, and he's coming at you. It says, like a roaring lion, he seeks who he may devour. So he's watching. He's watching for your weaknesses. And he gonna come, and a lot of times you're not gonna know he messing with you till you see him messing with you. You know what I'm saying? But you got to be vigilant, okay, in all areas. Um, in Matthew chapter 4, he came to Jesus, tempting him. What did Jesus do? It is written. He had meditated on his word, and where Satan was messing with him at, he had scripture for that specific thing to combat him. He wasn't just studying Bible history all the time, or we the Hebrews and they this. No, you have to study specifically where you are messed up at. And if you are unaware of it, it don't matter. Satan don't care. He wants you to be ignorant of what he gonna use to mess you up. Okay? Um, let's see. So we're going to read Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12 says, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. And this goes back to what I just said. You got to be meek. You got to be humble. You can't think you've arrived, because it's telling you this fight isn't it's telling you this fight is wrestling. Wrestling is not like boxing. You can sit there and take some time and just not be in contact with the person and just wait and throw a strike. Wrestling, if you've ever wrestled, is there's no pausing. It's you're literally exuding energy and strength at all times when you're wrestling. Like it's not like a sword fight where you go cling and you take a pause and then you throw another one cling and then you pause for a second. No, wrestling, you fully engage the whole time. It consumes a ton of energy. And you look, I remember talking to somebody, they said the best, they found, like they were talking about the Navy SEALs, they said the best Navy SEALs, the best like type demographic of people are people from the West. So they live out west, Midwest. People from the Midwest, I think they said, that were on the wrestling team. So these people were on a farm. They probably grew up on a farm and they were on the wrestling team. And they said they have the best chances of making it through. But that wrestling, the conditioning you need for wrestling is high level. And so let's read the scripture again. It says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities." So we wrestle against principalities, powers, and rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness. This is what you're wrestling against, spiritual wickedness in high places. In your mind. This is where the battle's at. This is what I'm trying to tell people. And I'm telling you, man, I've found like there's nothing like when you're at peace in your mind and you got your mind right, there's nothing externally that could come at you that's gonna shake that peace. You're gonna be boom. But you gotta wrestle and fight for that. Okay? Um, but that's basically it in a nutshell on what I want to talk about today on this. Definitely go and check out the rest of the series, The Journey Inwards. And also check out Spiritual Self Development, that series also, because that's another good series where that one leans more towards defining some of these vague words we hear, like self esteem and stuff like that you hear people talk about. I just define and get granular with the breakdown of a lot of these words and concepts to what it is and bring it in alignment with the word to show people how to really get their minds right. So anyway, y'all, I'm Michael Israel. You watch Spiritual Combat. Shalom, shalom.